Hey, Alice. Good timing. I'm here with God in Rehab. We have Leslie Benson,
Hey.
Spooky Rawlings,
Hi.
and joining us via Zoom, we have Matt Hossafrost.
Hello.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
It's
glad-
awesome.
Absolutely.
It's our first interview, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, as a band? Awesome.
As a band.
I got
yeah.
an exclusive. That's sick.
Absolutely.
We'll do our
Very
best.
cool.
Yeah.
Y'all have a show on the 13th at Cobra?
Yeah, it's our third show and also our third show at Cobra. So we hope you'll be there
shit.
next weekend. Yeah, 8 p.m. doors. We're playing with Kendall Cage and Guillotine.
That's correct. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Y'all do really well for a band that has had two shows. Like
Thank you.
I saw y'all at
Thanks.
Cobra.
Thanks.
There was a lot of fucking people there.
Thanks. Yeah.
Those last show sold out. We did pulled in a lot of people. We're really happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Surprising, but
really
happy.
grateful. Great lineup too.
It was a great lineup too. Yeah, just having multiple bands that bring cool people in and everything, that helps out a lot.
Absolutely.
Just being able to share a lot of that audience with those folks, it's really cool.
Yeah, I feel like the Nashville scene kind of supports its own community. There's a lot of musicians are, friends, and they bring their friends out. And so we just kind of grow the scene that way, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's been my experience as well. When I got here in 2015, I feel like it was a little bit more like clicky and segregated. Like
Mhm.
these bands play these venues with these other bands,
Yeah.
and they don't really branch out a lot. But like I've seen Nashville become a lot more unified.
Yeah.
I'd say
Yeah.
over the last like 9 years.
Yeah,
And
it's
that's
really cool to see a lot of bands too that don't necessarily fall in the same category that still build together.
Yeah.
And like just bring different, eclectic styles together, and like the crowds come in and everybody's just really cool and inclusive and everything. So
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That kind of reminds me. So we have the show next Saturday, but we have an all ages show in October with a band called Alice, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Kind of an industrial synth pop, female fronted band.
I'm gonna write that down.
Yeah, they're coming October 12th to Dark Matter. So that'll be our first time at that venue.
And it's
Okay.
AL1
CE.
CE
Yeah,
or
interesting.
C3.
There's a one in there.
Yeah,
somewhere.
interesting spelling of that band. But
That was October 12th.
okay, yeah.
Cool. I
I'm
keep a
becoming
calendar
fan.
for these things. So
Smart. Because I didn't remember.
Yeah, there's a lot of shows going on. So we're just grateful for
Yeah.
anybody that comes and hangs out with us and
Yeah.
listens to our music.
that's awesome. Y'all are such nice people too.
Sure.
So
Thank you.
cool.
That's what
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely.
We're just happy to have people come to our shows.
You guys
Yeah.
make it easy to support you and show
awesome.
up.
That's
Yeah.
really sweet. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, what one of the things that I love about this band is that we're all friends in real life. Like Spooky and I would play D&D together, and Matt would come and just hang out with us whenever he can travel in from out of state. And John's, putting on all these collaborative shows that we are a part of. So we all hang out. We're good friends. We're like a chosen family.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's super cool.
for sure.
Where are you hailing from, Matt?
Cape Girardeau, Missouri is about 3.5 hours away from Nashville.
Almost
So to put that,
basically same.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty much St. Louis.
Yeah. Matt is
but it's about like an hour and a half.
Right on.
Yeah, I drive a long ways back and forth. I usually, when I come out to rehearse and stuff with them, I'll do it all in one day. So it'll be 3.5 hours out, 4 hour practice, 3.5 hours back.
That's some dedication, Matt. We love you.
Thanks.
And
It's
we'll
a
see
whole
you in
day.
2 days.
Yes,
I know.
we got our final rehearsal this Sunday.
Very
It's
cool.
fun though. It's worth it.
It really is. And just
Yeah.
the more and more we do it, the tighter and tighter we get, a little bit easier it is to kind of come together and really just do what the songs really need,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We when we started out, we needed every minute of 4 hour practices. Now we really kind of dwindled that down to about 2 hours and let John talk about 2 hours.
Between
Love
John's
you, John.
antics and jokes, we stay entertained. I feel
John's-
like
John's
we're finally gelling as a band. I think we've been this particular lineup has been together for 2 years now, since 2022. But Matt and Spooky, you guys founded this band in 2005 originally?
Oh, wow.
kind of fuzzy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I
was very
think around
fuzzy because
2005.
we had different incarnations of what we did, and a couple of the songs carried over, but it was different bands before that. But it's always just been a collaborative effort between him and I. And even if
Yeah.
it was a long distance situation, he would send me files, I would send him files, and we'd just work on it that way. and it was always just pretty much intended to just be a studio project.
Yeah.
And it was just
Yeah.
labor of love, and it's just the passion of it and everything. And then, a couple of years ago, it was like, I think it's time to put it on stage. So let's start finding some cool people to help bring that on stage and everything. And got Matt interested in actually being present and playing it and everything. And that's when I found Miss Leslie Benson here,
Oh,
who
so
was
great.
currently not performing at the time. And I was like, why the hell not? And we did, like she had mentioned before, just as friends, that she wanted to do Home by Depeche Mode, do a cover of that.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? God and Rehab will do a God and Rehab version, and I'll just have you sing on it. She was like, okay, cool. And so we did that, and it was just so amazing that I was just like, hey, Matt, what do you think about asking her to do one of our originals that doesn't have any vocals on it? He was like,
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. It's a great idea. So then we brought her on board with that one, and she was like, okay, I'll try it. She gave it a shot and nailed every bit of it. It was really awesome. And so then we were talking again. We're like, how about we just ask her to be in the band?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Doing the Depeche Mode cover was like a dream come true. And since then we've done, a bunch of other tributes to some of our favorite bands on stage, along with the originals that we do. And we're lucky to have John Nicholson join us on keys, also in 2022. And he just brings a presence to the stage as well. As he's doing like Everything You Ever Productions and Not Your Nails and stuff like that. So the four of us, we're just doing this as a labor of love. We love music. We love getting out there and expressing ourselves. And anybody that can join us and hang out and watch us perform is more than welcome.
That's what it's all about. I like, when a band is like not having a good time.
Yeah.
Like, and they don't always know that, like, the audience knows, but like the audience always knows.
Yeah.
And like, you guys clearly have a good relationship together and enjoy what you do. And that is what makes it such a great experience.
Yeah, thank you.
The same hijinks we do in the rehearsal studio or whatever is the same stuff we do on stage.
Yeah.
We're a fun, not serious band.
Yeah, I definitely don't take ourselves very seriously.
I mean, we're serious, but we're not like, oh, that note was wrong. Oh, I hate everything. Everything sucks. We're like, oh, that's fine. We'll just roll with it,
So how long has this project been called God in Rehab?
Oh, yeah, probably 15, 16 years, I guess. Okay.
Well, I think you and I threw around names way back in like 2000. And I think officially, 16 years, but I think that name kind of floated out there for a while as like a potential name for a band or whatever. And then you're like, F it, we'll just put it on there. Now, Enemy is a God in Rehab song instead of a previous project that we did.
Yeah.
And what I don't know, Solemn, probably Crux, all got kind of translated into God in Rehab stuff.
Yeah, it had different attitude back then than it does now. It's like
now
it's
we
about being supportive and embracing like a more realistic reality of who we are as people.
Sure.
We did a lot of growing up in that time.
Yeah.
Too. I mean, we were early 20s. Our worldviews have evolved since then, and I think we're more socially aware and just kind of like have our pulse on the current climate of things now.
I definitely think a lot of that comes through the lyrics and just the overall mood of the songs. We like to express and be a voice for people that people dear to us that don't necessarily have a way to express themselves, people that have passed and people that have their rights being taken away today. So there's a lot of meaning behind the songs if you start to unravel the layers, I would say.
Very cool. Is there a story behind that name? You're just like, this sounds awesome. It's a great name. I love
a little bit of it sounds awesome, but it sounds ominous as well. But really, the true story behind it is essentially you can see someone and kind of put them in this sort of like almighty stature. It's like if you see someone as a god, and you're presuming them to be all powerful. Well, that person can at sometimes still need help. So it's like even somebody that's put up that high on a pedestal can find themselves in a situation where they need assistance or rehabilitation or whatever. So that's really kind of the whole concept of what God in Rehab is, you know. But I mean, a lot of people will take it as God in Rehab. Oh my God, this is so sacrilegious or whatever.
Some people take it literally.
A way, you know, in a deeper way, being like, you know, it's like everybody needs help. No matter how strong, how powerful you are, at some point somebody will need help, and that's, you know, kind of the concept behind us as a unity, you know.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about like idolatry, like putting people on pedestals, like philosophically.
Yeah,
but we can talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. So y'all are working on some new music, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I would say one of our newest songs is called Obsession, which I don't know if Spooky played you a little bit of the unreleased track. Didn't have time yet. We're really excited about this one. It kind of touches on some of those themes. It's currently being produced, mixed, and mastered by our friend Nick McLaren of the band called the Static Architect in California. So he's going to help us with our EP that is in the works. Excited about that.
He was also featured on our Upside Down remix that we released last year or year before.
Yeah, last year. Upside Down. That was one of our singles, and it's about a little bit about 11 from Stranger Things and her whole journey going through the Upside Down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. What kind of music was in the house growing up? Let's start with Matt and go this way.
In the house. So
yeah, like or in the car, you know, when you're growing up.
Yeah, well, see, I grew up I was born in the 80s, so a lot of like I remember my very first exposure to music. Don't judge me on this, please. It was Christopher Cross, Kenny Loggins. But that made me like music and 80s sound. That kind of cemented me there, and I never got out of that. And you know, my parents loved the Stones and Beatles and CCR and Fleetwood Mac, and then that evolved into like Depeche Mode and obviously Nine Inch Nails, and I don't know, and so that's kind of where that came from.
Right on. CCR and Fleetwood Mac are huge for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're iconic. I mean, the whole band dynamic where there's so much drama and yet they can put out music that's still great is incredible. So
those early influences, do you think do you see how that like translates into what you do now, or is it kind of like stuff you found later on?
Yeah, I mean, Mick Fleetwood was a big inspiration for me. You know, his drumming is very like driving beats and nothing very complicated. You know, it's just like the service of the song. So I'd say definitely Mick Fleetwood was probably one of my first drumming inspirations. Then I just kind of stumbled into new stuff, and you know, my friends from where I grew up kind of exposed me to like other more interesting like electronic music, and electronic was really hard to find where Spooky and I kind of grew up for a minute. We had one store to buy music from on cue, and it's usually, you know, like regular pop stuff, but then they had a small electronic section where like Daft Punk and Crystal Method was, and I was like, oh, that's so great. And that's where I took a lot of my programming, you know, style from.
Right on. Cool. Same question to you, Spooky.
For me, if I say what music was in the home, that definitely will reveal my age, right? I remember having 45s as a kid when Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, I Love Rock and Roll, I had that 45. I had Jay Giles Band, the Freeze Frame and Centerfold. So I'm just this 3 or 4 year old kid listening to Centerfold. Why not, you know, jumping on the bed to it with my little record player and stuff like that. I was always like a huge fan of music, and I was one of the kids that had the little, you know, piano that made noise and stuff. I love that thing. I used it all the time. I actually still have a photo of me playing that damn thing. It's just kind of cool. But my mom was really into Motown, really into, obviously disco was huge at the time. So she was a big fan of the Bee Gees and Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. And
nice.
There are a lot of songs on that soundtrack that are just bangers.
Yeah.
Musically, if you listen to all that and you break it down, it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
So a lot of that kind of went into me, and I think I took an early interest in music production and how they got everything the way that they did. And back then, it wasn't done, by a computer, so everything was done to tape. And most of the times, it was like, go, and then you perform your piece. And if you screw it up, you start over and you go again. So I think I have more respect of that format of recording music than, I mean, now it's interesting and it's a lot easier and it's a lot quicker. You may be able to make a record in a month now, whereas back then it would take 7-8 months, just to kind of get everything right. And so you had to really have your talent and your craft down to make a really cool, successful record. That's, I mean, just really breaking everything down and looking at the complexity of everything I think is what really kind of gave me that, okay, well, yes, I'm gonna learn guitar, obviously, but I also need to learn drums, I also need to learn bass, I need to learn keys, I need to figure out how to, do vocals and stuff like that. So it's just really, for me, doing all of this stuff all at once has kind of made me how I am today. It's like doing a million things all at once, and art has always been my big thing. So anything having to do with the arts or creativity or whatever, that's who I am.
That's a cool mix of music.
Sure.
Yeah.
But what really got me into guitar, I guess, was probably the Appetite for Destruction album by Guns N' Roses, and then just hearing what Slash was doing, and I was like, that's what I want to do right there. That's what I want to do. So probably that very next year is whenever I acquired my first guitar and just studied the hell out of that thing.
Yeah.
I would take things apart, disassemble it, put it back together, see how it worked, why it worked, and how to make it do what I wanted it to do.
Was your first guitar acoustic or electric?
No, it was electric.
Yeah. Nice.
I didn't really start getting into acoustic until about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I wasn't, figuring out this is the A chord, this is the C chord, whatever. I didn't do that until about 10 years ago. It was just like, what do I think I can make this thing do?
Right.
And if it was like wrong, then it was wrong. And if it felt good, then I was like, well,
that's awesome.
Play this,
So like you were, you were like experimenting with the guitar, like from the time you got it. That's really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. I was completely absorbed by it, just obsessed.
Yeah.
Still am.
I want to come back to something you said, but what are some of the music that you grew up with?
Yeah, so my parents gave me their record collection when I was like 15, and I had a little acoustic guitar. I loved singing. I was in the choir and things like that, but also played flute at that time. That's the only instrument I could ever actually play. But I just started growing that record collection and listening to as much music as possible. I still have like all my old cassettes and CDs. I'll never get rid of them. I love hard copy music and pop culture things. But I started listening to things like Joan Baez. That's one of the singers that kind of inspired me to want to get into doing vocals. She was also a singer-songwriter, so she was writing all of her very poetic lyrics about meaningful, political things happening at the time, real subjects, things personal to her in her life. So that kind of inspired me as well. But later in life, like when I was a mid to late teens, got into a lot of goth industrial music, Depeche Mode, Nine Inch Nails, Susie and the Banshees. I've always been a huge 80s new wave fan. So Tears for Fears, Simple Minds, Duran Duran, all that stuff. And I think all of those bands kind of influence me nowadays. I love to write music that you can dance to, and also music that is very emotive, that you can feel and that makes you think. I would say musically, the band that influences me the most right now is the Birthday Massacre. They've kind of, I was introduced to them in the early 2000s, and they've really stuck with me this whole time. I love Chibi. She's their main singer. She's also a writer and a vocalist, so I kind of try to emulate some of what she does. I highly respect her as well. One other band that I am emulating a little bit with God and Rehab is Ego Likeness. Actually, they just came to town, and I met and hung out with Donna Lynch, the singer. She's also a poet, which is what I went to school for originally was poetry and music journalism as well. Yeah. So anybody that's like a writer and a vocalist in this kind of genre is very influential in my life. Yeah.
Right on.
very
cool.
integral as well.
Absolutely.
For being someone who's a horrible lyricist, this is a dream come true.
Thank you. Well, I wish I could play, instruments, but I know unless you want me to do a Lizzo thing and bring my flute in, I don't know which one to do at one point.
That sounds awesome.
I think back to the Peter Gabriel Genesis era.
Yeah,
bring the flute out too.
Exactly, and Kraftwerk has one of their songs as well. So maybe we'll turn that up sometime.
You mentioned you sang in choir. Did you grow up religiously?
No, well, sort of. My best friend growing up was the pastor's daughter at a Methodist church, and I mostly just went because of the youth group. I liked the community. The religious stuff just kind of blew over my head. I was like, whatever. But on Sundays they'd have like donuts, and we got to hang out with our friends, or we got to go to Kings Island. I'm from Ohio originally, so I loved that. Now the funny part is, years later, my poor best friend's dad got like arrested for embezzling money from the church, and I'm like, oh, that's how they got all those Christmas presents. I'm like, how are they making this much? Why are we going to Kings Island all the time? I don't know. But so that was interesting to me later, because I remember him being a very pious man, a very kind man. He kind of reminded me of one of the Beatles, and then I saw him on TV one day getting arrested, and I'm like, yep,
damn,
that tracks. Okay,
that's wild.
Burst my bubble, cool. But no, I consider myself a spiritually open-minded person now. Just I love to learn about different spiritual practices, and especially like New Age beliefs and things like that. So,
as William S. Burroughs said, if you do business with the religious son of a bitch, get it in writing.
So, I love that you have that beatnik reference in there. Read a lot of Allen Ginsberg and stuff, Jack Kerouac in the day, so that's cool.
The reason I ask is religion was very prominent in my upbringing.
Gotcha.
I was a Jehovah's Witness growing up.
Okay.
I was also homeschooled, so I was really cool. I was very cool.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. Actually, I know somebody that has a similar background.
Really?
Yeah, my partner has
wow.
a similar background. Yeah. So that's cool.
A Jehovah's Witness?
Not Jehovah's Witness, but a very religious background.
Gotcha.
And also homeschooled. Yeah.
Okay.
But turned out pretty cool. So you did too. So
yeah. I think I'm fairly well balanced, considering I didn't know anyone outside of my church until I was 18.
But probably better off, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Was there religion growing up?
For me, no. My parents were agnostic. My mom's a little bit spiritual. She believes in an afterlife and reincarnation. And my dad is a pretty stout atheist, and so I fall somewhere in between. I'm more of a science-based person. If that would be my religion, it'd be science. But I'm open-minded. Like if something is proven to me, I will accept it. But I grew up in a few places where religion was kind of shoved down my throat, and I rejected it. And it was like, if you don't believe in this thing, you're going to hell. If you're not this exact person in the square box, you're going to hell. And I never fell into that. So no, religion, luckily, was never a part of my life in my home. It was usually external stuff that was forced on me.
Yeah, kind of like in the community, but not in the household. Okay.
Yeah. Where I did a lot of my growing up was Southern Baptist, and they were very in your face about it.
Yo, Southern Baptist is crazy.
Yeah. I worked in a business for a long time where they constantly would witness me and hound me, and this is like a professional environment, totally against every law. And they were like, "You should come to church with us all the time." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So, I met someone like Spooky who is so different. And I'm like, this person is like me, open-minded, not, religious. And I kind of latched onto him against his will. I'm like, you're my friend now. So.
What about you, Spooky?
The attempt was made.
Okay.
My father was very religious.
Okay.
And he was a pastor, minister, whatever you want to call it.
What denomination?
He was Southern Baptist.
Southern Baptist. Yeah.
So he had this outlandish idea of it was his way or no way.
Mm-hmm.
So his interpretation of scripture or whatever was far extreme, kind of. So he's the kind of guy that would always get into fight with the the owners of the churches and stuff, and he'd get kicked out ultimately. So
Oh wow. Okay.
it was very it was never cool. But I was never into that whatsoever. It's like I essentially ignored all of it. Whenever I was a kid, The Omen and The Omen 2 came out and was like on constant HBO rotation. I identified more with Damien than anybody in the whole.
It's
huge
weird
horror
to say that
movie
Damien's
fan.
an inspiration.
Way too young to be watching a lot of these horror movies, but that's what I clung to, was like that, the darker side of things. But as far as religion goes, as a grown up and everything, I definitely seek more enlightenment through the native way.
Yeah.
And just the indigenous beliefs and the way that we use the earth. And, that's where a lot of my spirituality is. It's like looking to my ancestors and looking to, all the resources that we have at hand that we're currently destroying.
Yeah.
Little by little.
What tribe?
Muskogee.
Muskogee? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My mom's Muskogee and my dad's Ojibwa. So
okay. Lots of
both of those, from the north and the south.
There's a lot of Cherokee on my dad's side.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, whenever my dad was never really, his mother left when he was very young, so he didn't really get a lot of that Ojibwa culture, so like she was still on a reservation, but he was not. And whenever he married my mom and my mom had taken him back to our reservation in Oklahoma, he freaked out. He was like, "What is this witchcraft? Oh, I don't understand what they're doing here," and like pulled him out of there and just tried to shield us from all of that. Of course, it never really happened. So we definitely gravitated more towards that, because it made more sense. It's more real.
Yeah.
But that's basically all that is. As far as like religion goes,
I gotcha.
A religious person, never. But culturally, I guess you would call it spiritually.
Yeah.
But it's just more about what's in your heart, what's in your mind, and what you can use in your surroundings, the real things that are there.
Yeah.
The sun helps us live. Water helps us live.
Church is nature.
Yeah.
Or absolutely.
Church.
That's what my folks always say. Yeah.
Yeah. There's an old saying that's like, the white man goes into a building to see God, and the red man goes outside and God speaks to them. So that's
yeah. I've had a lot of weird experiences in my life, but only when I like went looking for it, or like when I was listening.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like I never had anything weird happen when I was a kid, like spiritually, and like when I left, I was like obnoxiously atheist, like annoyingly atheist.
I'm gonna let you know.
But then like days where it's like, well, let's fuck around and find out. And like if you go looking, you will find it.
Yeah.
And I think really like I don't really know what to make of it too much, but like there's a lot of power in like prayer and manifestation.
Oh, absolutely.
And I would consider myself like a chaos magician, which is like just bypass theory entirely. Don't worry about how this works. Let's look at the practical effects. Like what can we do?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a scientific approach to magic, which is like, in my experience, like anything can be explained with psychology. Like I've never seen a poltergeist. I've never seen something levitate, but like I've channeled things. I've had things like inside of me. No pun intended. But like nothing like breaking the laws of physics.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where was I going with that? It doesn't matter.
I want to touch
it's basically
more
just
upon
like
this.
putting
Absolutely.
energy out there, and then that specific
Yeah.
energy will kind of reformulate and come back to you in a specific way. If you put negative energy out there, negative energy will come back to you. But positive.
Yeah.
Positive,
We're through our songs, we touch on dark subject matter, like real things that have happened to us or that we've witnessed, but we're trying to put more positive energy out into the universe. And one of our songs that is really important to us actually kind of comes from Spooky's heritage, and the song is called Solemn, and it was our first original song that we wrote together. And Spooky came to me and challenged me with write lyrics to this beautiful melody that he had written that he wasn't sure how to kind of really bring to life, but he knew what he wanted it to be about. And so I sat with it for about a week, and I really poured my heart and soul into it. It's about the murdered and missing Indigenous women.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
It's a really huge thing that we're trying to bring awareness to. And Spiky, would you like to speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's an epidemic that's just outrageous, and it has been going since the 1400s, right? And it continues on today. And there's just not enough research goes into a lot of these murders, or kidnappings or traffickings or whatever. It's just it'll reach a certain level and they just disappear.
Everyone, they just all turn a blind eye to
they
it.
will, it won't go past like tribal police or state police or whatever. There's no federal, agency that will actually investigate a lot of this stuff. So it, like I said, sometimes it'll land on somebody's desk and then just get wiped off like it never happened. So just seeking justice and trying to find, what happened to a lot of these women, girls, and two spirits, what have you, is really super important to us, and so, for the song itself and the video, we have the video for it that shows a lot of statistics and everything. And,
wow.
Lots of good stuff that just kind of brings the awareness out there. And it is a bummer subject. I know it really is, but
no, it's very important.
Yeah, in order to get
very
the word
glad
out
you guys
there.
are doing that.
Yeah,
That's
and just to have that out there, and we did release it as a single, and we have it available on every Bandcamp Friday. And it's a name your price deal, and every single cent of that goes to a coalition that helps people, victims and families of missing, murdered Indigenous people. So it's super important.
Yeah.
And so we just encourage that. We don't see anyone come from that. So like I said, every penny that goes into an account, and then it all gets shipped off to them.
That's such an important thing y'all are doing. I'll put a link down below where you can go check that out.
Yeah, it's on our Bandcamp link, and we appreciate everybody that's supported that effort as well so far. So for me to have written about a subject that is not necessarily personal to me, but it's so deep on a level that I can't even fathom, I had to pull from my own personal life and just kind of speak as a woman that has gone through abusive situations, and kind of think about how other people would feel, losing a loved one in that way. So in a way, it did go really deep into my spirituality as well. And I think you can hear that in the song itself.
Right on.
And especially live for us. I don't know, I'm sure for you guys, but there's something like that, for lack of a better term, magical that happens when we perform it live. I really get into it, and I get emotional, and I have to remind myself to dial it back a little bit, because it's such an important, powerful song, and you can see it in all of us when we perform it, that it means a lot to us. And I think that one specifically means a lot to us. It was our first song together, really, and I was looking back at our old videos of our last performance, and you can see us just kind of explode on stage, where we're like, this is emotion and anger and hope coming out when we play.
Yeah, at the end of the day, as serious as that subject is, we do want to bring hope to people. We want people to feel welcome at our shows, anyone and everyone, just not people that are going to come in and cause issues or anything like that. But we want to be welcoming. We want to be a safe place, and we are grateful for everyone that is there.
Yeah, sure.
That's so cool, guys.
Thanks.
I have a lot of respect for that.
Thank you.
Kind of to pull back to something else we were talking about. You were talking about how it's so easy to record something now and put something out, versus it would take months or years to do that back in the day. And I'm not a musician, but I write poetry, and I'm working on a novel right now.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
I gotta read it.
Appreciate
awesome.
it. Actually, everything I've written is available on my Instagram.
Cool.
Okay.
It's a book I'm writing and putting out as I'm writing it.
Oh, interesting. Awesome.
Yeah. But anyway, I personally, my mom's a very good piano player, and she tried really hard to teach me as a kid, but I never had that discipline to learn an instrument. And music is very accessible, and there's so many tools available to kids now, but there's so many distractions too.
Absolutely.
So do you have any advice, this for everyone, do you have any advice for kids trying to learn a discipline?
It's hard to not be distracted by things.
Yeah.
You've really got to have that want and that desire to do it. You know,
yeah.
It's so many people that I've talked to that have tried to get into it and they just get frustrated right off the bat. It's like, you're gonna get frustrated. It's gonna suck, and it's gonna take time to get past that frustration. And if you're not strong enough willed to get past that frustration, obviously you're gonna give up. And if you set that standard out there that's like, I can't do this, then you've already, held yourself back. So just, I guess the only real piece of advice would be just don't give up.
That's really enlightening, actually. Like, basically, if you want it bad enough, you will do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Otherwise, maybe it's not for you.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I think it's important to challenge yourself to quiet your mind more. And I need to do this myself too. Just step away from social media, step away from being social and everything. Just literally go somewhere, be alone for an extended amount of time where you get bored, because you know what? Boredom leads to creativity. Boredom allows you to let your mind process things. Sometimes I process things in dreams a lot because that's the only quiet, peaceful time I have in my day. And I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, like I just thought of something really cool. So I would challenge kids to just, get offline for a little while, read, listen to music other than the music that you're really into, because you can get inspired by a genre that you're not into, and find things that you can use in your own work that way.
Get outside of your, like, the box of like what you like. I can't say that better than you did.
And honestly, even in your social life, do that. Like the other, I've spent a lot of time hanging out in the goth industrial scene here, which is awesome. Going to the Cobra and East Room, we love those places, love the community. But it's also important to get out and support the other communities out there in music. I used to go to the Monday Night Blues Night in Freeman's Alley. Awesome musicians there, totally different than me, different backgrounds, but they are amazing people, very kind and very welcoming. And I just got to enjoy that music as well. There's also a Monday dance night, Monday Motown. I did that the other day, and it was so out of my comfort zone. And I just watched all the amazing dancers. I'm like, this is cool. I'm inspired. And it just felt like pure joy. And when you have pure joy, you can go do other things. You let go of your frustrations and your anger and everything about the world, and you just go make art.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I need to do more of that too. Like,
hit up museums too. Like, hit up any type of fine art museum or whatever you can go to, even if it's not your style or your taste, you can still kind of get some ideas based off of that. Just like looking at different, tempers or whatever, and be like, I never thought of that. And then you can kind of concoct your own ideas of what you would like to create using certain techniques and elements that you wouldn't normally think of. So
that's a big part of what I'm trying to do. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add real quick that the thing about art is there's not really a wrong way to do things.
No rules.
No rules. Yeah. Is it a painting or writing or writing music? As long as you can get your idea across, or it can be interpreted into a certain way, I think that's a success. That's the great thing about art. You can do whatever the heck you want, and it's not a big deal. It's just like, oh, cool, I got this image from it, or I got this meaning from it. And that's what you want to do, is invoke an emotion. So I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
And I was just really going to quickly say, for other creative people out there, I would recommend 2 books, highly recommended. The Art of Asking by Amanda
Oh my
Palmer.
God, that's one of my favorites.
Is it on your shelf?
Yes,
I love this book. It's my favorite book ever. It's about
such a good book.
Just being a starving artist and learning to put your fear aside and just ask for help, because the people that appreciate your art will help you. And we have found that in Nashville to be true. Our friends have been so super supportive, coming out to all the shows, listen, sharing music. Sometimes it just takes a like or a share. You don't have to pay money if you like the music. We appreciate it, but either way. But the other book is Make Good Art by Neil Gaiman. And sadly, they're not married anymore. Brokenhearted.
Oh, I didn't know
But
that.
they used to be married. Two of my favorite artists of all time.
I know
But Make Good Art is a very short, small book. Kids can read it. Adults can read it. It's very inspiring. There's also, if you go on YouTube, he has a speech that he gave to a college about this subject of making good art. And it's basically about letting go of that part of yourself that filters out all the creativity, the part that says you're not good enough, this isn't good enough, you should erase that or throw it in the trash. No, make the good art, get through, or make the bad art, get through that, and then at the end of the day you're going to have something that you can pick from that's a gem, a hidden gem. So for a writer like yourself, I don't know if you do this, I have a poetry journal and I just write down like random observations or feelings or dreams, and then I pick from it for the lyrics in the songs that we do. And Spooky and I sometimes get together, we'll have a songwriting session, and I'm like, okay, play me a melody, play me a riff, and then I'll be like, okay, I think I have something for this. And that's how one of our songs, Broken Generation, got started. I just looked through my poetry and I'm like, yes, this is the song right here. And it just evolved like organically. It was amazing.
That is exactly what my writing process is like. My
You're
writing
awesome.
process for
we gotta hang out sometime.
my writing process for my book is completely different from my writing process for poetry, which is like I'm just writing down ideas and then going back through them, and some of them will be like disjointed ideas that I put together. But yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, it's a good way to get started. Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's just talking about what you would consider bad art. Sometimes that's your good art. You just don't realize.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
That's true.
Like, there's a lot of stuff that I've written that I would never expect anybody to really dig, and then it turns out it's like that's sometimes some of the people's favorite stuff. And you're like,
right.
It's like I wouldn't even plan on putting that out. It's
Yeah.
like somebody gravitates to it, and somebody gets a specific feeling out of it. And everything.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. Whenever that kind of happens.
That's a cool feeling. I mean, we are all our own worst critics, and if we can just silence the critic for a second and just create, just for creation's sake, it's an amazing process.
Yeah, I know a lot of like really talented people that are just such perfectionists that they never release anything.
Yeah,
I have like the opposite problem where like I'm like, well, that's good enough, and let's put it out. And it's like I probably could have worked on that a little more.
Yeah, it's a fine balance.
It is a balance. It is a balance. Yeah.
It wasn't there yet.
Yeah.
This is something I ask everyone. And when I say ghost story, what I really mean is, have you ever had an experience that you can't like reason with like logic? And I don't think psychedelic experiences are excluded from that. Because I mean, like looking back, like shamanically, like historically in shamanic usage, like psychedelics and magic have always gone hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So like, I don't know. To some people, it's like, oh yeah, well you were tripping when that happened, and it's like, well yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, in any order you guys want to go.
I've definitely experienced a lot of stuff. For me, like I said, with being so close to my heritage and my family and everything, my grandfather still is the hugest inspiration to me. He was a very important man, full-blood Muskogee, and he spoke the language, all the traditional language. His mother didn't speak a bit of English, so he actually was sent to a boarding school when he was young so he could learn English and handle her business.
Wow.
And so yeah, he lucked out and didn't have the really shitty boarding school experiences, but still he was in boarding school, and that was the main reason for doing that. And so he knew a lot of the old school myths, and he knew a lot of the old school stories and everything, so he'd passed a lot of that stuff down, and that's why I hold him so high, and he's super important to me. And even now, he went to the war, and he was a farmer. They were landowners with oil and everything, so he was very much a person to take care of his piece of property and everything, and his family. And so now that I own a little mini farm myself, I'll be doing stuff out there, and whenever I stop and I think about it, sometimes I'll smell his Swisher Sweets. And just out there on 5.5 acres of land where nobody's out there smoking Swisher Sweets, and it's a very distinctive smell. But whenever I start to like think about him, I'll smell that, and I'll be like, he's here. He's looking after me while I'm still honoring him and thinking about him. I think that happens quite often, actually, a lot. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah, I experience it a lot, and it's part of that.
Yeah.
And it's not something I'm here to really explain, but I don't know. I just think being that in tune to who he was, spiritually, there's still that energy didn't go away.
When you pay attention, like the universe communicates, talking, screaming at you constantly, and it's like all you have to do is listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't ignore it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, so I have two stories. So when I was a kid, kind of had night terrors, and I was dabbling in Wicca at the time. I had my little high school coven, we went to the woods and did things. But so I feel like I opened myself up to some stuff at that age, and I used to have dreams that would just be really terrifying. But one was a waking dream or a waking actual experience. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I was awake. But I sat up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. I watched somebody walk into my room. It was my mom. She walked over to my dresser, and I'm like, Mom? And I sat up in bed. I'm like, Mom? And I noticed she didn't have any feet and she was floating. And then she disappeared. And then I went, Mom! And she was sleeping in the room next door. And she's like, I'm like, did you just come in here? And she said, no. And people later said, well, it was either, some kind of a spirit. I didn't feel like it was malevolent necessarily, but definitely creepy. Or it could have been a projection of hers while sleeping. I don't know. The other experience I've had with ghosts is, so one thing in my life that has really changed who I am as an artist and as a person individually is my high school sweetheart committed suicide, unfortunately, at age 30. And we were very, very tight. We were very good friends. But right after that happened, I started seeing 1111 all the time. And right before he passed, he was communicating to other people and telling them different words and phrases with clock numbers. So he unfortunately left this world on the date that when you flip it upside down the clock, it spells hell. But when he passed, I kept saying 1111, and it comforted me somehow. And then I started going out into nature, my church, nature, walking around in the forest, trying to find peace with this whole ordeal. And I would find these little stones, and they were heart-shaped. And I would find them every single time I went out into the forest. And now I have a collection. There's like 20. Wow. I still find them. And so he and I were in a band in high school, one of my first bands, Mr. Eyetooth and Majestical Moose. So I still feel like his presence is around me. That's why ghosts are such a strong theme in my songs. I just feel like I'm living my life for the people that have passed that cannot be here with us. And so I want to represent them. I want them to feel like they're being seen and heard still. And it comforts me and it helps me heal. And I think for other people listening to the songs, hopefully that'll help them as well.
They're still very much a part of this plan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That gave me chills.
Sorry.
No. I mean, I think this stuff is, I don't have like delusions or grandeur, but I do think these kind of conversations are important.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think it doesn't happen often enough.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Matt, do you have any similar spooky stories?
Besides like nighttime paralysis and the thing in your bedroom door that's kind of like
let's talk
figure.
The pile of clothes, it's some demon.
Yeah, it's I could try to explain it scientifically. Your body's in paralysis and that between open sleep and awake state, but also it keeps happening to everybody in some point in their lives, so it's kind of hard to explain away. But throughout my childhood, I've experienced that on like a once a year kind of basis, where I am frozen in my bed and this demon thing is either at the end of my bed grabbing me and I can feel it pulling me out of the bed, or summoning me from outside the room. The only time that I ever really felt something actually like I can't explain is I was in the middle of my sleep, and I had this weird fear of aliens from the X-Files. The X-Files fucked me up as a kid, but I woke up in the middle of me sleeping, and I was levitating just slightly off my bed. When I woke up, I dropped down into my bed.
Holy shit!
Yeah. Now I could, like I said, I could probably try to explain that away to something. I don't know, but what's weird is.
The really intense part.
I've never heard this story before. This is crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I haven't thought about it in a while until you guys start talking about this kind of stuff. I had a friend named Aaron Camp who was spending the night that night, and we went to bed watching the X-Files, and he said he saw me move in a very unnatural way, and he wasn't someone who to make that stuff kind of, to make up that kind of stuff, and so that kind of affected me. Like I kind of felt like I had no control over my body at that point. But that's really the only thing I've ever had besides the demon stuff.
Wow.
That's pretty serious, man.
Yeah, I know. That's not great to think about.
Roughly how old were you when that happened?
Probably like 10, 11, 12. No, I was probably in junior high. So yeah, 12 to 13 or so.
Yeah.
And it affected me probably for the rest of my life. Like I actually had to get on sleep medication for a while to allow myself to go to sleep because I was so terrified at night.
Oh my
gosh. Sorry, go ahead.
It's affecting me
go
now.
ahead.
Yeah, I'm getting freaked out.
There's something dangerous about that in between state, that limbo state.
Yeah.
I've heard, like, I ask everyone this. We've done like over 180 of these, and the sleep paralysis is a really common one that I do not write off because that's fascinating to me.
Or like the dream where you try to wake up and you're still in a dream that happens three more times, and then you're just like, totally in paralysis. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
I have a weird thing too. Is like there's obviously something that's very strange that goes on with your brain. Is with my autosclerosis and Meniere's disease. When I take these devices out, I don't hear shit. And in my dreams, I still hear, right? So the only way I hear my alarm is my brain is picking it up and letting me know, hey, your alarm's going off. And so then when I come to, I can no longer hear my alarm. I just see my phone vibrating. So
holy shit.
It's so strange.
Wow.
So fucking strange.
The
That's
brain
crazy.
is fascinating.
The brain hears it enough that it like amplifies it for you.
Hey, time to wake up.
Wow, that's creepy. I love this subject, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
There might be something else too. It's not just like a sound your ears picking up. It's like a pulse in a reality that is like you're picking up.
Yeah, but
now that you don't have this sense of it, you can pick it up somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's just really strange that it's not like my brain creating a different scenario. It's my brain actually replicating the sound of what my alarm does.
Oh wow.
And like waking me up, so my brain is like, hey, your alarm's going off, and it plays that sound. It's not like just somebody coming smacking me and then I wake up. It's very strange.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like dreams could be a whole nother podcast episode we could talk about. I love that subject. But I was going to say really quickly, this is kind of reminding me of last year my friends and I got together and we did like a ghost stories party. Awesome. I was inspired because we lost power one day. It was like an entire day in Nashville like last year that we lost power. We're sitting in the dark and my cat's like sitting there. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm like, I want to tell ghost stories. So we all got together and everybody shared just fascinating stories like all of you shared. And I would highly recommend anybody watching this or listening, do that with your friend. Just get together, tell ghost stories.
Can we do this?
Yes, please. Awesome. Like seriously, let's do it sometime. It's awesome.
I have a lot of many crazy stories that Alice has heard already, so we won't. But like I said, like I never experienced anything weird as a kid, but when I went looking for it, like I fucked around and found out.
Yeah.
Like, I've had some very interesting experiences.
Yeah. That's cool.
That definitely like I said, I was very like adamantly atheist until my perspective shifted, and it's like the thing about that is, and I don't these are things I've done, and I used to be more of an advocate. Now I have a healthy respect for the dark.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily I don't condemn it, but I don't like try and recommend it to people either, because I think once you open that door, you can never shut it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I've definitely like opened up doors that like I have like intrusive thoughts sometimes, like not about like specifically, so I have this idea that everything exists, both conceivable and unconceivable, like some Lovecraftian stuff. Like so even if it's not on this plane of existence, there is a plane of existence where things exist. So what that means is that the most, like, the worst hell you can imagine, and then the worst hell you can't imagine exist. And that the opposite of that spectrum is true too.
Sure.
But like if I'm tripping or I'm like really high and I'm by myself, I become aware of these places and I can't turn it off.
That is scary.
Ruminating on it. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So I don't have this problem when I'm like with people, but I don't really do like psychedelics or like get super stoned, like edibles, like by myself anymore.
That's probably smart.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I would say as a whole, just if you're spiritual or not, just be careful what intentions you set. Be careful what you focus your mind and emotions and energy on. Focus on things you want. Focus on positive things.
Yes.
Because the more you ruminate and obsess about negative stuff, you're going to get more and more of that back. And I'm, that's happened to me, and the reverse has happened. Wonderful things have come into my life recently. I'm very blessed, but that's because I've changed my thinking and tried to be more positive. Even though we're in a hellscape of a world right now, we have to support each other. We have to keep hope alive and keep fighting for what's right.
Absolutely. And we can change it. I think like that's something I argue. Like I have a really good relationship with my parents and my sister. Like I tell my mom everything, and like she's also like very religious, but she's like, I'm gonna say like she's a real Christian. So like she doesn't like judge me or like condemn me in any way. And like she's definitely like, well, I wish you wouldn't do that. That's dangerous. But like she doesn't she still loves me the same, And but that is something that like we argue about quite a bit when it comes to theology. Is I do think there at this point in my life, I have a healthy respect for scripture, like religious texts, and that's not just the Torah and the New Testament. That's the Quran and all of the Bhagavad Gita. And where I kind of split hairs with my mom is like, yes, I do believe there's a plan. Like everything is fated, kind of. But also like we're instrumental in that. So it's like, yes, things are bad, but I don't like it when people are spectating. It's like, no, we are active participants in the world, and we can change it. We can turn it around and make it good. Absolutely. And so I have a lot of respect for y'all making that song you were telling me about. That's really important stuff that you're bringing into the world.
Appreciate that.
And you were talking about like Motown Monday and like getting out into other scenes. That's a big part of what I'm trying to do with this too, is like I'll talk to Broadway musicians that just play cover songs.
Awesome.
I'll talk to the Murfreesboro punk scene. I'll talk to like East Side, and like I'm trying to get we will have one unified scene. And that's not really up for negotiation. Like we will all be groovy, except for the people that are a problem.
Exactly.
Like there's not a place for people that are going to be like bigoted, but like but everyone that's groovy is going to be in the same there's no need to be competitive, like I know bands come from like out of state and like think they're gonna come into Nashville and take over. And it's like, no, dude, that's not the right way of looking at it, because there's a lot of really fun. Nashville is the hardest place to cut your teeth as a musician, not the easiest. This isn't where you come to make it. This is the hardest place to break through.
It's everybody's performer.
Everybody. And I think it's important to support each other and go out and see your friend's band play as much as you can, as much time as you can. But sure.
We have a great community here. I've seen it get a lot better over the last like several years.
Mm-hmm.
And like we have a real scene, like, you know, like there have been like some historic scenes like New York.
Yeah.
And like I think this era of Nashville is really cool. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely, from my perspective, changing and evolving. I know
Yeah, absolutely.
from what I hear and see, Nashville is not something that is static. It is always evolving into something new and better and different. And everybody seems to be doing something, you know, experimental or traditional, but it is, I think, for the most part, from my experience, is well embraced. We've been embraced. I know, you know, you could be a country musician, obviously in Nashville, and be well accepted, and then you have a goth industrial electronic band like us, and we've been accepted. And yeah, it's hard to cut your teeth in Nashville, but also you find your group, and they just love you, and they'll come to your shows, and they'll buy your stuff, and they'll sing your songs with you. And that's, from my perspective, been my experience. And that's, we played, you know, we've been in other bands together, like in Memphis, or we went to Little Rock. This is, you know, 20 years ago, or wherever, and we would have just small groups of people come, and we'll find like little niches of people that will come out and see us. But Nashville, to us, we, you know, sold out the Cobra last time we played, and that was a proud moment. And so yeah, it's hard to cut your teeth, but also you got good fan bases.
Yeah.
You know, people are hungry to hear that new music, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's a great community. It's like everyone in the crowd is also a musician.
I know. I love
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is like we all have to support each other. Like
Yeah.
the band from out of town that like didn't stick around for the other bands.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah.
That's gonna be difficult.
Yeah, and that's one thing, just to shout out to John again since he's not here, but I really appreciate how he has the collaborative shows that he puts on. Like he just had the Return to the Void, which Spooky you performed in, and I've been in Women to the Front and like the New Wave nights. So it's just a great way for all the different musicians from different walks of life to get together, perform some songs that they love, and everybody's like there cheering them on and just doing it together. And it's like the most fun nights.
Yeah. You meet a lot of folks, and it's a really good networking opportunity as well, you know, and it can lead to some really cool things.
I've met a lot of people through that, like Brand Merritt.
Yeah.
My buddy Chris Jackson does a lot of those. Yeah.
And I was going to say, you and I met on a music video shoot that Brand
that's
did
right.
with his band Sleep Nation.
That is where we met.
And so Alex and I were in this music video for Sleep Nation for the song Red Guitar, and they did a Back to the Future themed video with the Under the Sea dance and everything. And for some reason, like we were picked up as like one of the fake spoof like prom couples, and we just did like a funny photo at the end, and that's how we met. So that's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a small world. Nashville's a small town. Like I come from an actual small town, so it's like Nashville can be a little daunting. But when you look at like other cities, like Nashville's tiny. Like it's packed together, but like it's like that's good. Like big part of like we have to have like a good community, because if you are a band that like goes to the other bands and stick around for their sets, like people are gonna find out about that. Like it's a small town. Yeah.
You know, word of mouth travels fast in Nashville.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But the cool thing is just, you know, you're being honest, and you have something that you're presenting to people, and they see that you're being honest or whatever. People cling to that, and they respect that honesty, and they show appreciation for it. So it's really cool to be that, and not to be, you know, I guess fake or cliche, what have you. You know, just be true to yourself and play it.
Yeah.
A lot of times that'll pick up and take off. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I love that there's like room for everybody in this town. Like whatever music you play, you know, if you're going to create something, just do it. You know, somebody out there is going to find it special, and that's awesome. And just, you know, and just validate you in that way. So.
Absolutely. And what you were saying about John playing on those, like, few people have done as much for like this scene as John Nicholson. He's done so much for, love to John.
We love you, John.
Yeah, we love
you. So I'll let you guys go here in a minute, but something I'll also ask everyone, and no one knows the answer to this question. I think based on stuff we've already talked about, I kind of know where y'all are coming from on it. But some people do think they know, but that's where like dogma and religious doctrine comes in. Do you have any preconceptions about what happens after we die?
My favorite thing is what Keanu Reeves said. After I die, people will miss me.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I love that.
Yeah, that's how your life lives on, is through story and memories and people speaking about you kindly, hopefully.
That's the only thing that's evident, the only thing that's true.
Yeah, that is true.
That's
everything that's
observable.
provable.
Yeah.
It's like, after I'm gone, the people who love me will miss me.
That's absolute. Yeah. So I was wrong about we don't know. Spooky knows.
No.
You were right. You're
I know
right.
something from the great Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, he's a good poet.
Yeah.
He's a treasure.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, he is.
End of the show. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Please subscribe, support.
Yeah.
Any other opinions?
For me personally, I draw comfort in the idea that my friends and loved ones that have gone before, they're there. I feel them. I feel their presence still. So as scary as it is that one day, you know, I'm gonna die, like they're gonna be there. I believe they're gonna welcome me, and we're gonna be reunited, and that makes me feel so strong, especially on those days where I need the strength.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that is comforting.
Yeah, I just hope all my pets were there. I just want to see my pets again.
Oh, the fur babies.
Yeah, I know it was kind of corny, but
thought about that a lot.
Yeah.
There's like a continuation for animals too.
Yeah,
I certainly hope so.
The one ghost.
Yeah, why would
story
we be special? Yeah,
I do have a ghost story real quick. When I was a child, I lost a cat that was very dear to me, and then after that, I would see her out of the corner of my eye. She was this orange cat, so sweet, never meowed or anything, but I would see her out of the corner of my eye in my house. And then I'll go looking for her, she'd be gone. And then that happened for years and years and years. And I was like, I went to my mom, who is kind of spiritual. She's like, she's communicating to you that she's still around and watching over you. And that made me feel very comfortable as a kid. So hopefully I'll get to see those animals again. You know, people I would love to see, of course, but you know, it'd be nice to be comforted by all your animals when you're when you pass.
I still hear Betty's nails clicking in the kitchen.
Oh, Betty.
And then I'll just ask her if she wants to go to bed with me. And sometimes I'll feel her where she used to sleep between my feet.
Yeah.
I'll feel that.
Betty was a very sweet puppy.
It makes me feel great, you know, just knowing that that's still there. That energy's still there.
And Savannah, your horse that got in rehab, had her first
photo
shoot with your horse. And you missed her. Yeah.
Sassy Savannah.
Oh.
Yeah. Animals have a different energy that I think stick with us, whether we realize it or not. Their presence is known, at least for me, and I'm sure you guys too. Like I never feel like when I feel lonely and stuff, I can still kind of feel the presence in me in some way.
I love that. That's sweet.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Absolutely.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. Thank you for everybody for listening and watching. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Check out God in Rehab, and this Saturday, go to Cobra.
Next Saturday.
July 13th, 2024.
Yeah, July 13th.
Yeah.
This will go up in a few days. So October 13th or July 13th. Jeez, I'm horrible at this. Okay. July 13th, Saturday. Go to Cobra, see God in Rehab, Kindle Cage,
and Guillotine. Yeah.
And we'll see you next week, Alice.
We'll see you.
Bye, Alice.
Bye. Thank you.